Welcome friends to another r/malicious compliance video. So I was checking my statistics and it turns out that only one of you guys aren't subscribed. So if you don't want to be the one person left out, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. That said, our first story of the day is by Nomad65555. Whatever chainsaw I want, you say? As many of you know, I, male, 18, do tree work for a living and have done so for around 2 years now. My boss, who I'll call Duncan, is a 32-year-old hotshot and the owner of our small company who can sometimes be a real tool when things aren't going fast enough on a job. Now, Duncan has an old family friend named Fred. Fred worked with Duncan's stepfather at a cement plant for 20 years and is his stepfather's best friend. Fred also retired from said cement plant. Fred is the kind of man who would give you his shirt off his back while being an absolute vindictive smart butt about you not having a shirt. However, Fred was working for Duncan as a favor since Duncan was understaffed at this time. Because of this, Fred couldn't give a flying freak about his job or what Duncan said or did. Fred took as many breaks as he wanted when he wanted to, and wouldn't hesitate to tell you where to stick your opinion if you said something about it. Fred is also a complete bull of a man who stands at a hearty 6'3" and 275 pounds and easily makes Duncan, 5'10" and 160 pounds, look like a shrimp. So usually Duncan isn't too quick to bother him. So one day we were all doing our things on the job. We had a big old pin oak to take down, so we were all in our usual positions. Jake up in the bucket truck, James running our loader, and Fred and I chipping brush and shooting the breeze. Although I'll admit we were slightly slacking off. Duncan decided he was going to sharpen all of the chainsaws that were not currently in use, so he gets to work. Now, for those of you who don't know, sharpening a saw takes a while, and on top of that, all of our saws were extremely dull. So they took a lot of sharpening in 95-degree heat while being stooped down on the door of one of the boxes on our bucket truck. Duncan was sharpening saws for the better part of 2 hours. When he finished, we had the vast majority of the tree cut down, all of the branches were off, and Fred and I had long since shut down the chipper. And we're taking our lunch since we had nothing to do, as wood is moved from the ground to the dump trailer by James and the loader. For some reason, the fact that we had 20 minutes more work infuriated Duncan. This is especially odd because the tree was coming down very quickly compared to usual, as it was Friday and we were all hoping to cut off early, as we sometimes did. Duncan flew off the handle, screaming at us for the better part of 10 minutes, which ironically extended us to 30 minutes more on the job rather than 20, and he ended his tirade with, "I'm leaving to go do estimates. Finish and go cut firewood at the yard. You will not be cutting off a second before 3:30. As Duncan stormed away, Fred piped up from the back of the group, just as sweet as pie with anticipation dripping from his voice, "Hey Lipstick, which saw do you want us to use?" To which Duncan replied, "I don't give a freak," and stormed away. Me and Fred smiled at each other, thinking the same thing. When we arrived back at the yard, we began getting saws off the truck. From the smallest of trim saws to the largest brand spanking new Stihl MS-881 Magnum with a 42 in-bar that we used to cut particularly large stubs. Me and Fred both grabbed a saw and fired them up. We began to cut and cut and cut and cut. For almost 3 hours we cut firewood, making sure to hit the dirt with the saws as much as possible, and going through every saw until they were almost unusable from how dull they were. Trust me, if anyone knows how to dull a saw quick, it's a tree professional. Fred and I were having the time of our lives, dancing and singing and cracking jokes while we cut, while screaming to be heard over the painful wailing of saws being tortured. When 3:30 rolled around, we threw the saws back in the truck and went home, and I still swear to this day that I heard Fred singing at the top of his lungs as he rolled out of the lane in a cloud of black smoke, which may have been his crankshaft eating some gaskets. Monday when we got to work, we rolled out to the job site, and Duncan fired up the mammoth Stihl to crash a huge hickory tree in the middle of the woods. He began to cut, or should I say grind, the tree. The wood was smoking from the terrible amount of friction from a saw that was as dull as it could get. Duncan stopped. He checked the chain. He got another saw and checked the chain. Dull. He went through every saw and checked chains, getting redder and redder. He walked over to me and Fred and said, "Fred, Blake, why is every saw dull?" To which Fred responded, "Well, Duncan, you told us that you don't give a freak which saw we used, so we used them all. That shouldn't be an issue, right? Since you don't give a freak." To which Duncan sighed, knowing exactly what we did, and walked off to sharpen all the saws again. Fred was, is, and always will be my hero and my best friend. He's currently back to living the retired life of working on cars and fishing. Many days I miss him and his offhanded comments, but I'm carrying on his legacy of smart buttery. Disclaimer, Duncan is not a bad boss at all. In fact, he's the best boss I've ever had. He just has the mindset that time is money and that some things should go faster than they possibly ever could. Would you say, whether you're in a group of friends or maybe even in a semi-lighthearted situation, would you say you're the kind of person to be a little bit of a smart butt from time to time? I know when I'm around friends or people I'm kind of friendly with, I tend to throw some jabs here and there, but I try to do it as playfully as I can. Let me know about you guys in the comments down below. Our next story is by Small Squish. You need me more than I need you. So a while ago, I used to work as a shift manager at a very popular US coffee and donut chain. The owner of this franchise branch was extremely abusive, power-hungry, and sexist, which seems to be a trend on the sub. To put how outrageous her treatment of staff was into perspective, I watched this woman training a new male coworker once. He messed up a drink, and she proceeded to throw the drink on the ground and demand he clean it up. She also demanded we include her when dividing tips up at the end of every night. Pretty sure that's illegal, but hey, I was 17 and I didn't know any better. Anyways, I had this 30-something female coworker with 2 children. She was from India and would always bring a little extra dinner with her when we worked together to get me to try foods from her culture. She was such a sweetheart and a key player in the story. At the time, I'd been working there for 3 years. I was a shift manager and was primarily in charge of training new hires for the closing shift. One day, my lovely female coworker comes in extremely upset. She explains that after working 6 days a week, every week for the past few months, she was denied off for her son's birthday party. I immediately told her not to worry, as I was free that day and would work for her. No problem. I come into work early the next day when the owner was still in to let her know I'd be taking lovely coworker's shift on her son's birthday. Mind you, the date in question was almost a month away, so we were giving her plenty of notice. The owner says, "That will not be happening," with a smile and tells me to get to work. Something about her smile told me she was getting off on denying my coworker this day off with her family, and that crap broke something in me. For the next 3 weeks I stewed. I wrote out my 2 weeks notice and kept it in a sealed envelope in my car. We were short-staffed and the new hires needed training, so I decided to stick it out a little longer so that my other coworkers wouldn't have to pick up the slack. One day, I pull in for my shift and see that the owner's in. I walk in and hear yelling from the back. The owner's back there screaming at the group of morning shift workers in what I assume is Hindi. She then dismissed them and starts in on my lovely coworker and another coworker in English about how incompetent they are. At this point, I'm done. I get between her and my coworkers and go off, telling her that we're all tired of her abuse and that I will not stand to see her targeting lovely coworker anymore, denying her days off out of spite. We go back and forth yelling for a bit, and then she says, "If you don't like it, then get out of my sight." I reply, "I quit. You need me more than I need your crap anyway." She smugly replies, "I'll be needing you to hand in an official notice of that. You can come visit me tomorrow in my office." Little did she know, on this particular day, I had my resignation letter in my apron. Nothing felt as good as ripping that letter out of my apron and slamming it down on the counter, wishing all of my coworkers the best, and telling the owner to have fun burning in heck. She took me off the schedule for my last 2 weeks, but I heard from the lovely coworker that the owner was having to work 12-hour days to work out hiring new people and training everyone who was coming in. Not crazy compliance, but dang, it felt good to stand up for myself. Not only did OP probably ruin multiple weeks for this owner, but they showed that they're such a good person and showed that they would stand up for their lovely coworkers when they're getting treated unfairly. Good for OP for not standing idly by when some real messed up stuff was going down. This next story is by Smile for 9mm. Need a doctor's note when I return to work? Okay. A little background. At the time, I worked at a larger organization that had a staff of 1,000 to 1,500 people in a travel-related industry. As we all know about the travel industry, certain times are busier than most, and during those times, non-pre-approved vacation or days off are blocked out. If you call off sick, you need a doctor's note when you return to work. Generally, the management doesn't care because it's your sick time that you've earned, but we all have that one guy. By the book Bob, we'll call him. By the Book Bob got promoted because he was a company man, a yes man, a dude who drank so much Kool-Aid that it oozed from his pores. It was nearing Christmas time, busy holiday travel time, so it's all hands on deck, and several days before and after are blocked out for those vacation days, etc. This blocking out extended to past the new year. I came into work on Monday and went home feeling unwell. Nothing too terrible, just the feeling malaise. Something a day's rest and a good night's sleep should fix. So Monday night, I call in to let them know I was going to take a sick day to rest and recover and be at 100% for the impending holiday. So I call in, and who answered the phone but By the Book Bob? I tell him that I'm going to take a sick day since I'm not feeling too well. Without skipping a beat, he says, "Remember, the holiday period starts tomorrow. If you call off sick, you'll need a doctor's note." As I mentally imagine him sitting on the other side of the phone, all excited and happy that he reminded me of the doctor's note instead of wishing me well. I respond, "Okay, cool. You want a doctor's note when I get back, right? Otherwise I'll get a write-up." By the Book Bob says, "Yup, gonna need a doctor's note." Cue malicious compliance. Sure, no problem. What By the Book Bob didn't realize is my personal physician is an old Asian man who gives zero freaks. He's gonna take holidays off. He's gonna take extended time off because, well, it's his office and he can. Guess which office was closed until a few days after the new year? Yep. Am I gonna go off to the local non-emergency room on a sick day to camp out for a doctor's note? Yeah, no. Am I gonna pay out of pocket to go to another doctor to get a note so By the Book Bob can be happy? Most definitely no. I guess my only choice is to hang out at home resting until the new year and then pop in and get my note. So I do. When I'm finally done with my sick time and get my doctor's note, it's now nearly 2 weeks later. I head back into work and drop off my note to By the Book Bob when I get in. "Hey Bob, here's the note you wanted." By the Book Bob says, "You were gone for a long time, bro." I say, "Yeah, you wanted that doctor's note and I didn't want to get in trouble since you said it was required. My doctor's office was closed until just yesterday." He says, "You couldn't get the note anywhere else?" I say, "You gonna pay for my doctor's office visits?" I smiled and walked out. I kinda just wish that there was ever going to be a situation where I could be like, "You know what, I'll just not show up for 2 weeks and I'll give him a doctor's note when I get back." Even though their doctor's an old guy that gives zero freaks, it's still a bit of a gamble that they would give you an appropriate note, and if OP didn't get an appropriate note that said that they should be off for 2 weeks or whatever, or for the last 2 weeks, they just go get this doctor's note saying they were sick. I just imagine it would fall apart a lot of times. And our final story of the day is by Care Cannon. Those are the rules. A couple of years ago, I got a book for Christmas that I already owned, so I went to the bookstore to trade it for something else. I found a book I liked in the same price range, so I went to the counter to inquire about trading in. The clerk says, "Without a receipt, we'll value your book at the lowest price we've sold it for since launch." I say, "But surely the value of the book right now is the going rate right now." They say, "Nope, those are the rules without a receipt." I say, "Okay, I guess." They say, "Here's a voucher for the value of your book." Annoyed, I go back among the shelves to see what I can get for this new lower price, and notice the book I wanted was on a discount for members of the Customer Members Club. I grab a pamphlet about this club. It's a deal where they get to send you ads, mail, and SMS, and you get discounts. Rules mention that I can cancel at any time. I fill out the form on the pamphlet, and at this point, I don't really need to finish the story. Back at the counter, I say, "I'd like to become a member, please." Clerk says, "Super." I say, "And I want this book." The clerk says, "Great, just fill out a form." The transaction takes place and the clerk says, "Anything else?" I say, "Yes, I'd like to terminate my membership, please." I grab the form still on the counter and the clerk says, "You can't do," but I cut in saying, "Those are the rules." You gotta love when somebody's a big stickler for the rules, although in this case it's probably the policy they have to follow, but you still love getting the opportunity to turn it right back around back at them. I don't think there's anything more satisfying than looking a stickler for the rules in the eyes and saying, "But those are the rules," and watch them kinda slowly die inside. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel, and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.